The victim mindset. You've heard this many times, but what is it exactly? What kind of problems does it cause? And why do we find ourselves getting into it? In a word, it can be that we are seeking comfort. So let's talk today about the victim mindset. In continuing this series about perspectives, the victim mindset perspective is really interesting, and I run into it frequently with people who are dealing with spiritual attachments. What might happen is that they're already in a victim mindset, and then they discover they have a spiritual attachment, or the reverse. They can get into a spiritual attachment situation, and it goes on for so long that eventually the negative mindset, the victim mindset, takes over. Well, let's talk a little bit about this. What exactly is the victim mindset? And you can ask yourself these questions in an effort to really truly understand more about whether you fall into the category of the victim mindset. Do you often blame others for situations that you've experienced? Do you often blame your situation? Do you blame your family? Do you blame your friends? Do you blame complete strangers for whatever it is that you're going through? Number two, life is somehow against you, that the universe is conspiring to give you a very difficult and challenging life. For what reason, we don't know, but maybe you've decided that it's because you're being punished, or it's some sort of karma thing because it's happened in your past lives. You are a terrible person, and now in this life you are being punished for those actions. Number three, you have a difficult time coping with all the different things that are going on, and as a result, you find other ways to cope, and one of those ways is to actually take on a negative viewpoint of the world. Well, of course that's what happens to me, because the world is a bad place. It's somewhere where we've come to actually suffer, so of course I would, and so you are taking the responsibility away from yourself and saying, hey, I did everything right, but here's this situation. Well, it's the world out to get me. It's the way the universe works. So of course I'm going to have this situation. Number four, do you often feel that you're being attacked when others come to you to give you thoughts, feedback, and advice? You feel like they're against you in some way. Number five, one of the things about the victim mindset is that you end up feeling kind of bad for yourself or sorry for yourself. This experience gives some sort of pleasure sometimes, or some sort of relief. So you might seek this out intentionally to give yourself something in this chaotic mess of a life that you have, or that you've decided that you have. Number six, you might find that your closest friends or the family members that you feel most bonded with are the ones that also are going through negative situations. When you are negative and you are talking about how crappy life is, or your life is, or life is in general, then the types of people you're going to attract are people who agree with you. So do you find yourself surrounded by people who have the same opinion? Or you might find that you actually only have a few people around you because of your victim mindset. You don't let anyone in, and you keep yourself isolated from the rest of the world. And the last one is, do you find it hard to evaluate your situation in yourself and make any changes at all? All of these things, or some portion of them, combine to define the victim mindset. The victim mindset is not something that we're born with. It is a learned experience, a learned behavior. So why would we learn this, and why would we find ourselves trapped in it? Well, like I said at the very outset, that there is this seeking of pleasure that you might discover. And this seeking of pleasure, or the seeking of comfort, you might have found that using the victim mindset, you can provide yourself just a little bit of that. Here's how. In one way, you don't have to take accountability or responsibility for your experience. You are saying, the universe is out to get me, everything just doesn't go my way, there are negative entities, there are negative spiritual attachments that are causing me all this trouble, and so I don't have anything that I can do. I'm stuck, and as a result, I can't, at least there's one thing that I don't have to do, and that is to blame myself. I'm at least off the hook. Yeah, I don't want it to continue, but at least I can't blame myself. Another possibility is that you gain attention or you gain sympathy from others. When you tell your stories about how terrible your life is, they go, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what it must be like to be you. Oh, that's validation. You feel kind of good about that. Okay, see, I'm not crazy. This is difficult. This is challenging. And you might find that as you tell the stories, they get a little bit more extreme in their examples. I'm not saying that you're lying, but you might start to pick out the very worst possible situations to try to illustrate how screwed up your life is. When you tell stories about how messed up your life is, then you continue to fortify that as truth. Instead, if you told stories about how well things go, all of a sudden that starts to change the way that you even look at your own life. But if you were to go ahead and start saying positive things and people say, oh, good, I'm so glad that you're so much better than you were before. Well, if you don't agree with that, then that's the last thing that you want to hear. Oh, my life isn't better. What are you talking about? My life is terrible. That was just one little tiny example of something good that happened. My life is terrible. Let me tell you about how terrible my life is, right? Then you get into that. So you have to understand that how you talk, how you speak to others dictates your experience. The other reason that we might seek out a victim mindset is because now we don't have to take risks. There is a precedence to, I should not put myself out there. I should not engage in the rest of the world. Maybe I should even stay locked up in my house because the world is out to get me and everything wrong happens to me, etc., etc. This is the situation that you've created for yourself, and one way to feel a little bit better, again, seeking comfort, is to say, you know what, if I don't leave, if I don't expose myself to the rest of the world, then things can't get worse, can they? Well, when you have the victim mindset, things can definitely get worse. They can always be worse and worse and worse. And if you think about it, if you want to be able to tell the stories to other people about how bad your life is, then you need to tell more and more extreme examples of your misery. So you are essentially rewarded for having a negative experience. Oh my gosh, this terrible thing happened to me today. Wow, I can't wait. You might not say this consciously, but you might subconsciously say, I can't wait to tell my friend this, my spouse this, my family this, whoever. The more painful, the more difficult, the more extreme the situation, the more ammunition you have to tell people how terrible your life is and to get their sympathy. So how do we get over this? This is an interesting topic because the way to get over this is to actually step into your power. Right now, when you're in a victim mindset, you have stepped away from your power completely. Everything else has more power than you. And you kind of like it that way because that's the comfortable place to be. So, in order to actually step into your power, you have to take responsibility and take on the challenges of life. You have to say that you are not the victim. You have to say that you are the conqueror, and that any challenge that comes your way, you're ready for it, and you're ready to take care of it, to move past it, to actually maybe even enjoy it. To say, hey, this next challenge, woo, this is a good one. I'm going to prove to myself how powerful I am because I'm going to get through that challenge. This is, of course, the opposite of the victim mindset. To be able to say, I welcome any challenge that comes to me, is obviously not claiming that the world is out to get you and that you are powerless to do anything about it. It is saying that I look forward to the next opportunity to challenge myself. This is such a diametric opposite. I can understand why you might sit there saying right now, oh my gosh, there's no way I could challenge the universe and say I'm ready for anything. But you might surprise yourself. And this is one of the many things that I do when I help people with negative spirit attachments, is taking them through this stepping into their power so that they can overcome it. That's what we're doing. We're raising your vibrational frequency. We're teaching you how to step into your power. And then we're giving you the tools to actually do it and give you the opportunity to prove to yourself that you can actually do it. And it's amazing when we see those results. Another really important thing to do is self-care and self-love. I have multiple videos on loving yourself unconditionally that you can check out, and I'll leave a link above. But there's so much you can do to give yourself that care, that love, those actions that you can take to actually relax yourself. You might have gotten yourself into such a situation that you automatically create this tension, and you don't want to relieve that tension because it's all part of the victim mindset. I am constantly being bombarded by the universe. I'm constantly being bombarded by my problems. And if I let go, then I don't know what's going to happen. It could be fear of what's going to happen, or there could be a subconscious understanding that if I actually relax, then I am okay with this situation. I'm okay with my life as it is. And you don't want to be satisfied with that. Actually, you want to be completely dissatisfied with your life because that plays perfectly into the victim mindset. So my biggest recommendation is to move from the victim perspective to the higher self perspective. I am creating another video, which I haven't released yet, but when I do, the link will be right here. And you can go watch that and begin the process of shifting from the victim mindset to the higher self mindset. Extremely powerful, extremely rewarding, and it'll give you exactly what you need to begin this process of healing and taking yourself out of the victim perspective. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, liking, and perhaps leaving a comment. Let me know, what are the symptoms of the victim mindset that you've experienced or that someone else in your life has experienced? Maybe through this video, you've learned a little bit more about how to handle it, how to help them, and possibly how to help yourself. One thing that you can always do is do more research about the victim mindset, totally surround yourself with it, and become an expert. Notice all the elements that you see in your own behavior and your own life. I love you unconditionally, and I will see you in the next video.